Hello, BookTube. Well, as you can see, I have a guest. This is William Gallagher of the BookTube channel, the YouTube channel, 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me. I'll leave a link to his channel so that we can all collectively hoist him above 10K subscribers. It's a channel all about the incredibly world-conquering Apple ecosystem and how it can be used for writers.
Oh, okay.
And at first I thought that that's what our main topic would be. But then there was YouTube drama with Xander Hall and Demon Mama, and I knew that William would want to talk about that. But then even that was upstaged by a much better subject, something that you raised in a live stream, which is the horrible, bitter, evil personified that is the sub-editor.
Oh, you're
We
not
could talk
supposed to
about,
listen to me when I talk.
whereas if we could talk about horrible sub-editors for hours, we could.
And good sub-editors. Put that in there, in the mix.
Okay, but
Right, I'm not
you,
convincing you, I can see. Okay.
first of all, we should explain. Uh, William and I are both freelance writers and have been since Gutenberg dropped the printing press. And those of you who aren't, a sub editor is not the person who has the high ideals, who says, "Hey, I think you'd be a great fit." The sub editor is the one who gets down in the weeds of what you actually write. Uh, they've been the bane of my existence for a long, long time, well over half a century. And I, so that's what we mean when we say sub-editor. And when you offer the rhetorical fig leaf of there are some good sub-editors, is that true? I have never had a good one. You've actually had
Yes,
good ones?
yes,
What good?
yes, excellent ones. I mean, I think we need to explain further because I don't know why it's called sub-editing because that sounds like it's beneath other editing. Um, you deliver your copy, a sub-editor will go through it and check for grammar, for one thing. Clarity, they're a second pair of eyes, and sometimes a really precise second pair of eyes. And occasionally, I mean, I'm trying to remember my big example. I'm pro subs because there was one thing I wrote that was changed, and I've realized actually in this second, it might not have been the subs, it could have been the production desk after them. So I've been thanking the wrong person for all these years. Okay. Trouble with sub editing is it's a very precise, very demanding role, I think. And the sort of people who go for it aren't always that precise and demanding. They see it as a route into writing, particularly in magazines and newspapers. And unfortunately, these days there are fewer and fewer sub editors. So it's less and less of a job. But I think that means the people who want to do it, who are good at it, are the ones who survive. So yay for all sub-editors except one. I'll give you that, that I'm not going to name,
I've had that one many times,
or even the magazine.
to the point where I was tempted to take a screenshot of my pay stub in order to remind them that I'm the writer of the piece, not you. You're not the writer of the piece. It says so right there.
Okay, I once had to hire a writer on a magazine. It was some sort of feature about word processing when there used to be such features. And I was researching him or her, I can't remember. And I read a previous article that they'd written in another magazine, but they'd done screenshots of the word processor. So on the screenshot, I could see their original copy. And on the page, I could see what the subs and the production desk had changed it to. And there was no way I was hiring that person after that.
I guess theoretically they do sometimes save you from howlers. They can find a mistake, a legitimate mistake. It's hard for me to
Oh, okay. All
conceive.
right. You're trying to reach me part way here. I'll go back the other way. The one and only time I've ever ghost written for somebody, a long time ago. It's a technical person. It's if I could remember the topic, I would bore you two sentences in. But at the time, it was a controversial topic where you tended to be very firmly on this side or that side, never in between, and you would never swap for it. I realized this guy wasn't terribly serious in the industry because the instruction, the brief was, nah, pick whatever side you like. So I looked at it and I thought, actually, I see a bit of benefit, but that's the one for me. So I wrote that, and therefore he, whoever he was now, is so firmly, passionately in favor of that one. And the sub editors rewrote the headline to make it look like he was in favor of the other one. Pure mistake. And nobody but me noticed, including him. So, yeah,
So my.
it's not the only reason I haven't ghostwritten since, but so yeah, there you go. That was one of my two bad sub editors. You see, earlier I had one. Now I've got two. I think I'm putting the blame out somewhere else here.
Well, I don't know if the UK has the position of a copy editor. In the newspapers here, there's a copy editor.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's what we're talking about. I think they are the sub editor.
Yeah.
That's the difference in terminology. Uh,
Yes.
and copy editors, I've lost
Yeah,
count.
this is a better term, isn't
It
it?
is a better term. Yes, it is a better term. Absolutely. Because it acknowledges that copy already exists and that it was commissioned by a writer. A writer was commissioned to
Mm.
generate it. I've had copy editors who run me in a complete circle. This element is missing from the piece. Could you add this element? I don't think this is enough for this element. Let's remove this element. You know what's missing from this piece? This element. So I'm just, well, so in other words, you prefer the original thing that you mangled. Great. But we can presume that most of the people who watch your channel don't want to be sub editors, right? Like you said yourself, nobody wants to be a sub editor. They want to be an
No,
editor
it's
or a writer.
very few, I would say. But yeah, and I have a lot of time for people who want to be subs. So I'm kind of playing through this thinking, don't you ever find that you've been improved by somebody saying to you, this is missing, or why isn't there enough of that? Because I have, embarrassingly countless times now I think about it. Am I just not as good as you? That's the problem.
I think
Okay.
the word that's
Feel free at any point to make me feel better.
I think the word that's crossing viewers' minds is that you're not as arrogant as I am. Not that you're not as good as I am, but that you're not as arrogant as I am. I can honestly say that in 65 years of doing this, I have never had a single sentence improved by a sub editor. Not once, not ever.
Oh,
They had to
wow.
take their edits, of course.
Oh, goodness.
When you're out and
I
about,
mean, you're slightly blurring the lines here. So I'm thinking as well, actually, in my mind now, I'm thinking of particular editors I worked for. So they were more like you were saying at the start, the kind of higher level stuff. And they're the ones who would say to me, it's lacking this or that. And I've had a couple of exceptional editors over the time, and the pieces have been, first draft to second draft, dramatically
yeah.
better. So in general, I am improved. We're talking about this because I had one bad incident,
An editor, I would agree,
several.
where an editor looks at a piece that I've submitted and says, I originally envisioned this as being for the common reader, someone who doesn't know the subject, and this isn't quite that, and that's visible here, here, and here. That is valuable. But somebody telling me this is not the proper conjugation of the verb to drink, please. Somebody treating me as though I just bungled into the room and covered a page with finger paints. No, I've never
Oh,
had
that's
to
an
improve
image.
anything. But the galling thing is with sub editors, or in this country, copy editors, is that you don't, if you're a freelancer and you're out and about putting your work out there, maybe you need a portion of that work to pay your monthly bills. You don't want to get a reputation as someone who fights
Mhm.
with his copy editors. So you'll do it. You'll just do it.
No, good point. Right.
And you also
Yes.
mentioned the
Yeah.
post-production people. They can't be argued with at all. If you're writing a piece for a magazine and there's 10 words that dangle off the edge of the page, that's got to go. Those 10 words have got to go. That's just a question of an X-Acto knife. That has nothing
Yes.
to do with it. But but if we're talking to not
Totally.
sub
I'm
editors,
actually I'm
what's the matter? Did we freeze?
sorry. We're looking at each other now.
Yes.
We're looking at each other like we froze or we could not believe what the other was
Right. And it
saying.
works either way.
What was going through
We're having a little bit of a wonky internet
what was going
connection
through my
here.
mind is I was an desk, production desk guy for an entire week once, and I was very proud to be asked to do it. It's on a monthly, it was press day, quieter time for me. They were overworked. I was invited to join them for a week to do something, and my editor at the time despised that idea. Um, but I had a really good time working on a Mac 2 FX,
Oh.
dating myself now. Anyway, yes. You
But
were going to say something. Rescue me.
that brings us back to Mac technology. You and Mac technology go back a long way.
Oh, it's
Obviously,
like we planned it.
it's almost like we planned it. It's almost like we know what we're
Yeah,
doing.
I read about them.
And I find that
Yeah, I
fascinating.
watch YouTube videos.
You must have seen these things introduced into newsrooms and writing rooms. So did I. I saw them introduced. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're a wee bit younger than I
I
am.
do. I have a very clear memory. I have this visual memory of an Apple guy coming round to the magazine in London and showing us a Newton message pad. I can see it that looked like the future that wasn't going to work. That's the impression I had. But I can see the room now and all of that. So yes, I was in the room where it happened.
We got
All
enormous
right, give me it. I
metal.
just saw Hamilton. I just saw it.
We got enormous metal things as big as a small refrigerator of the computers with the black
Yeah.
background and the green letters. All and I thought
Oh yes, God.
there's
Yeah.
no point to this at all. You're telling us to learn how to operate these things in order to do what we already do. At the time, there was no sense of the potential at all. I think if you'd have gone back to me then, in 1980 or whatever, and said, "Okay, we are teaching you how to write on this machine, and you already know how to write, but the writing on this machine is imperishable. It can be sent anywhere at the speed of light. It's on every machine at the same time. It's not copy. It's a file, an electronic file. I think if somebody explained it to me then, maybe it would have made a little more sense. But it was the beginning. The segue that I'm getting to here is that it was the beginning of this technology being everywhere, which is in a way the
Yeah.
soul of your channel, which is that this Apple technology, this Mac technology is everywhere. All the people who are listening to your channel who write, and you always urge them to write more, they already have this technology. And it has a vast capability to help them write. So that's a
I
teaching.
feel slightly guilty here because yes, it's just really the point of the channel is that thing of write more. The Apple stuff is like a nice excuse and often a distraction and quite often a useful tool for it as well. But it's come on, write more. You've got the gear, get on with it, kind of thing. That's really what I'm about. And your face there, kind of half encouraging, half not.
Well, because it touches on
I will change my channel immediately.
it touches on I think viewers would rather you keep your channel the same than me keep mine the same. But it touches on a subject a question I've had for a
Okay.
long time. How much of writing can be taught? Don't you do a lot of teaching of writing? I mean, haven't you in your past done a lot of
Yes.
writing seminars and classes and whatnot? Is it
Yes, I do a lot. And one of the things I love is I do a young writers workshop one Saturday a month from about September to June, July-ish, somewhere around that, couple of hours with young writers, and I adore that. I don't actually think you can teach writing. I think you can just enable it. The thing with these, there were two particular. Uh, I mean, I have to remember their children. I don't care about the ages. They're just writers, so I lose track of that. But there were two that were whatever the age is when you're leaving one school and going to the other, and they were under a lot of pressure with exams and things. And it sounded like the schools were very constraining. And for those 2 hours, they could. Well, I was asking them to do things, but broadly they could write anything. Oh, and there's this little girl. Remember, I think she was 12, something like that. In the entire year that I worked with her, she did not once do what I asked her to do. I would set something for us all to do, and she would do something just slightly different. And it wasn't from any rudeness or disinterest. It was she had a better idea and she had to follow it. And by the end of the year, it was getting so that as I was planning this out, I think, oh, what would she do with this now? Where will she go with it? And it was just absolute thrill. Did I teach her writing? Of course not. Is she a writer? Yes. And she had that opportunity. And it was a privilege to sit opposite and to hear her writing. It's just amazing stuff. So yeah, I basically everybody I tell I teach writing to, I'm lying to. How many people watch this?
Don't worry, not many. It's the secret to my success. But it's enabling writing instead of teaching it. So that involves what? Inculcating the right disciplines? Teaching your brain?
Discipline's a good word. I don't know if this is the same everywhere, but it used to be in Britain. There was kind of a running argument almost of is writing an art or a skill? And to me, the answer is yes. What's the next question? So some discipline is difficult in those young writers things because some of them were really young and the balance was weird for me, trying to keep the older ones engaged and the younger ones interested, I suppose. The discipline of putting stuff down on the paper, the whole thing of it's cliche, isn't it? The worst idea you've ever written down is better than the best idea you haven't written down. Getting people to see it, I was going to say as a job, in all the good senses of a job, that you do it properly, you take care of it, you are proud of your work, you're not precious about it, but you know it's something that needs to be done and you do it. All of that is in there. But then there's also the fact that you are a writer, you can do anything. And particularly with those young writers, when most of the week they have to write about, I don't know, Roman centurions or something incredibly dull like that. In fact, the only thing duller than some of the things these kids have to write in school is the poor teachers who then have to read 30 of them and stuff. Here, I'm saying no rules. In fact, actually, with that young woman, I used to we got to the stage where we would kid each other about it. And she'd tell me what she'd done that was different. And I would go, you had one job. I asked you to do one thing and you wouldn't do it. Is that a bad thing? No, that's fantastic. And I thought with her and one other, a boy who's so funny, I thought with them, I feel like I'm bigging myself up here, but I felt I was at least there when something unlocked, I thought, for them. And that was just incredible to see that for it. Whether they become writers or not, the skill they have, and I think the liberation that the company I do this for fosters will help them whatever they do in life. They'll always be brilliant communicators. And
But
well,
does
I was going to say it's exciting, but I'll never see them again. So it's frustrating as well. But sorry, after you.
does the excitement of that unlocking ever transmute into crushing depression when you think about the huge odds against? Does it become
Well, it
crushing
didn't.
depression then? These are always such fun chats that we have.
Slightly reeling.
I mean, what do you do with maybe not a
Yes
12-year
and
old,
no.
but what do you do with an older student when they ask about the practicalities, about can I live as a writer? I love doing it. Can I live doing it? When it's climbing Mount Everest to live doing it.
Okay. There's a university near me and they've booked me a couple of times. And one day they asked me to do two sessions, one for their first years and one for their third years, whatever the final year was. And the brief was encourage the first years, terrify the final years people. And unfortunately, they kind of needed it. There was
Really?
one woman there who was a poet, and I'm not a poet. I'm love reading it, can't write it, and I can't really assess it or help or anything. But the impression I had when she read stuff was that it really worked. It landed. But she was planning to make a career out of a one poetry pamphlet that she hadn't written yet. So trying to convey to her that you're going to need to pay your mortgage some other way. But then on the other hand, in the same university, a year later, I gave a talk to some people and I was having a great time. I was just so enjoying it. And they were so funny and clever. And then another woman just kind of put her hand up and said, "You've put me off being a writer." Crushing thing. But then we talked about it in front of the whole group, fortunately. So I wasn't sent away looking like I destroyed someone's dreams. And she was saying she hadn't appreciated all of the work that goes into it. And she didn't fancy it anymore. She was going to do something else. So logically, rationally, practically, I suppose I helped her, but I wasn't happy
No.
leaving that one. I mean,
No.
she went away smiling, but I didn't.
Yeah, the huge
Hmm.
amount of work and also luck. There's so much luck involved that, and people who are
I wonder about this. Yeah.
they're really talented at writing, they think
Sorry.
that's just going to steamroll the question
Oh,
of
yeah.
that if I'm talented enough, I won't need luck. When I mean the thing that lets you make it as a writer, except for the one in a million person who becomes a best-selling author, the thing that makes you make it as a writer is a steady gig, and that's usually luck.
Yeah.
And what are you supposed to do to an auditorium of students? Telling them, be on the bus with the right person at the right time, be in the right newsroom at the right time when a job's gone a begging. Uh, but there's also just the
Yeah. See, you're seeing me disagreeing. I'm slightly disagreeing because actually, in some ways, I think we're in a better position now than we used to be. You can have a broader footprint. You can put work out there. Like 58 Keys has done something like 250 videos now, and that's all stays there, and it means a Google search is proportionately more likely to find one of them than when there were just a couple. And so yesterday I met somebody who turned out to be a fan, and that was thrilling. They kind of came across a room to find me and things. That would never have happened before. Now at least there's the potential for it. You have to work well, you have to write well, I think. But it's never been easier to get published. It's never been harder to get paid for being published. So there's scope. And I don't fully believe in luck because I think to a certain degree you make your own by going out there, by writing more, constantly writing, constantly getting better at it. I think you improve your chances. I know some of my opportunities have come through chance, but I see a distinction between chance and luck. It's like I put myself in the right place for that to happen. I just didn't know that's what I was doing at the time. In
right,
retrospect, I can see a solid progress. Is
right,
that more encouraging?
right. And
Less
for
encouraging?
chance, all the good chance in the world will do you no good at all if you're not ready when it happens. So it is a good idea to keep writing,
Totally.
to
Yes.
write all the time. I wonder if the younger people, the Gen Zs, they're not much on consistent applied effort. They're not much on that. How do you tell a Gen Z classroom that you should write 1,000 words a day, or that you should stick with this project even during the parts of it that bore you? How do you tell them that? It's that's a very good muscle to strengthen. Every
It
writer
is.
needs that muscle. You need to be able to push through the dull parts. But
Does this answer the question? And actually, because this popped straight into my head so quickly. I wonder, have I said this to you before? Just smile politely as if it's new.
Well, who
I was
listens
once
to
in a
you?
school, and
I wasn't
very
listening.
unusually,
It'll all be new to me.
where is the quit button? There's
I
got to
like
be one.
especially
So,
the glass
uh,
pinching. I like especially that. That's sort of my gold standard of annoying William is when I get the glasses pinched like that. But go ahead. You were going to say something actually interesting.
this is supposed to be serious, you know. I comb my hair and everything. Okay. Uh, Again, it was a young writer. He would have been 17, maybe 18. And I don't often work with that age range just because of practicality here in the UK. That's such a busy time for exams. There isn't room for somebody who isn't already there. Visiting authors don't tend to go in, but somehow I did. And this lad asked me in all seriousness, very politely, what is the point of any of this? And yeah, I sat down next to him, and again, I genuinely had this problem with ages because people are just writers. I don't care, whatever. So I didn't know the answer, so I could genuinely ask him, uh, "Are you driving yet?" And the answer was no. He was too young for that, whatever age that would be. And I said, "Well, yeah, but you're going to, aren't you?" And of course, it was yes. And then I stopped and said, "Why? Unless you're planning a career in pizza delivery, what use to you is a driving license?" And he got it. He understood that writing is a tool that gets you places. It's what I said about those two young writers before, that even if they never become writers, that skill will help them in everything. I seem to remember he was into football as well. And I pointed out that football, I mean, this is sport, so I don't really know, but I gather you don't have a long career in any sport. When you leave at the end, if you are the footballer who can communicate, you will get on television and things. If you're a footballer who can't, you've got to find a totally different career.
Mhm.
So these skills that you think are separate can be integral to everything you do. Plus, it's fantastic. Who would do anything else but write? I may have lost him with that last comment, but I couldn't resist it.
You can make a world. You can change
Yeah,
the world any way you like,
I've
anytime.
traveled the world because of it as well. So, I mean, literally and figuratively, the world has changed. That sounded a bit grandiose there, didn't it?
Yeah, I liked it.
I got flown to Los Angeles over a thing, and it turned out this thing was across the street from the office where one of my writing heroes worked, and I got to meet her. And it was an utter thrill. I was a total fanboy, completely embarrassed myself, but I got to meet her, and it's just, yes, if we ever meet again, I'll be far more serious. Can't,
I've never been
honestly.
flown anywhere. It's one of the deficits of not having any talent. I've never been flown anywhere. I think once upon a time I was given crosstown bus fare, but I think that was mainly to get rid of me for the afternoon.
Okay,
Although,
not
although
sure.
when the focus is sports, it's not just what do you do when your sport career is over. It's also if you can write sports well without
Yeah,
going to playing sports, boy oh boy, you'll get snapped up a lot quicker than the disciplines that tend to attract writers. If you write
yes,
engagingly about movies, you've got 1,000 competitors. If you write engagingly
sure.
about your community cricket game,
Yes,
you can make that interesting copy, people will notice. It's
good point.
just an offhand thing. I always wanted to say that to all the sports reporters that I've worked with over the years. But maybe if your prose was a little better, but
Yeah.
we're running
Mm.
out of time, and
Oh, goodness, already. Sorry. Um,
I don't want to
Talk
get cut
faster,
off.
William.
Well, no, I don't want to get cut off in mid sentence. There's so much more I want to talk about, especially involving the speciality of 58 keys, which is these tools. I mean, we have now covered, I think, wonderfully that these are just tools to do it. What you're
Yeah.
really doing is saying write more, and you say that in every episode: write more, no matter what you have to do, write more. But there are all these tools that
Yes.
one ecosystem gives you, and it's the reason I think that it's interesting to talk about is because the ecosystem is ubiquitous in the West. I actually don't
Yeah.
know is the system ubiquitous in the East? Does
It
anybody
isn't in the
have?
UK, I can tell you that. Most writers I work with are on PCs, and most of them are having a terrible time with it. So, why don't you look at something else? But
Right.
no.
I mean,
I
are
mean, I
there
work with people who
any
hate
iPads?
Gallagher.
Are there any iPads in China?
I truly do not know.
I
We
don't.
should go have a look. I'd be willing. Would you?
Well,
Let's go on a trip.
I've
A
been, but
live episode of this
yes,
in
we could go on
Beijing.
the road.
We could.
I am sure that young Chinese people also have the bug to write. And I'm sure that they write on tablets and on phones, but what are those phones? What are those tablets? I don't have any.
Oh, um, there's lot of stories recently about iPhone sales declining in China, but that means they must be on sale in China. So if iPhones are there, iPads must be there. Hopefully Macs are as well.
I
I
remember
mean,
a detail that you said in a couple of your videos that when you're talking about keyboards and Bluetooth keyboards and keyboard cases and whatnot, you've mentioned a couple of times that you've done an enormous amount of writing just on the glass
yeah.
iPad. You're the first person other than myself who's ever talked about that as if it weren't the 10th plague of Egypt. I'd rather enjoy the experience of doing it.
Right. Yes. Sorry, I'm just enjoying the description there. Yeah, it's quite satisfying. I mean, I actually think I made a mistake buying a Magic Keyboard for my iPad because I treated it like a laptop. When I started leaving that Magic Keyboard behind and just holding it as an iPad and doing iPad-y things, is that even a phrase? I find I'm getting much more out of that machine. I've had an iPad renaissance since leaving the keyboard behind,
Yes.
but you do still have to write, and it's surprising. I mean, it's not the same, and I am slower, but there are little tricks in it that are built in to help you write comfortably on
Yes.
it, and I like
I
those.
found that for instance, the machine's native autocorrect, oh, this is what you certainly meant, is much stronger on the machines that know that you don't have a keyboard.
Oh,
You're
oh,
going to be making
goodness.
more mistakes. The auto, whatever it is, the autocorrect on my iPad is effortlessly better than the one on my MacBook, where I
Hmm.
guess it's just assuming that I'm going to backspace and fix my own mistakes. But I'm a
Oh,
big fan of those folio keyboards.
oh yeah. I don't
Folio
like the feel
keyboards,
of them, but
the lightness of
the
them.
lightness of
Still, I
feels.
took an advice from one of your videos. So all of you who are watching, go and subscribe to 58 Keys. I took the advice that
That
you
would be
just
very
said,
nice.
which is try not thinking about this as a laptop. Think of it as an iPad.
Hmm.
And it made a huge difference. You wouldn't think that it would, but it made a huge difference.
Astoundingly so. Yes, I'm a complete fan, and I did a couple of iPad episodes just for myself, really, and they seem to have done better than the average. So there might be some more of those
It
if I
won't
can.
work on an iPad mini, will it? There's really no way. Is that too small?
No, I don't know. I have friends who swear by the iPad Mini, and when the last one came out, it wasn't like a cut down iPad. I mean, it was physically, but it was as powerful as the rest of them. And it's a few years now, so it's a little bit out of date. But it was not like a mini toy thing. It was a full blown powerful tool, if
Right.
that size was right for you.
The iPad mini 6.
Yes, that's the
And
one. Yes.
there have been all sorts of rumors that there isn't going to be another iPad mini.
Oh, right. I'm hearing the opposite, that there'll be a
Oh,
foldable one, that it will have a particular type of screen called an OLED one, which is, richer colors and blacks and all this stuff. So it's obviously they're obviously just making it for the UK. That's what it is.
what is the appeal of the foldable technology? That's all the rage now.
I don't know. I don't. I read a news story today about somebody seen with a prototype where it didn't just fold out; it kind of folded three ways, and that was like a tiny phone becoming a tablet. And I thought that I'd quite like to play with that. But so you can have a tablet in your pocket and just
Well,
no.
yes. Yeah, I was thinking of the US military has plastics that have memory. So you can
Oh
stretch them to a shape and they freeze that way. And then
goodness!
you 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 pinch them a little and that releases that shape and you can shape them somewhere else and it
Wow.
freezes that way. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could do that with a device? So you no longer have a phone, an iPad mini, an iPad, iPad Pro. Instead, it's any size you want it to be.
Yeah, there you
In
go then. Do that. All right.
I
Sort it out.
I don't think the military is willing to share that technology.
No.
I don't think they're willing to do that, unfortunately, with a whole bunch of dateless wonders who just want it for the technology involved.
Okay, it's a barrage of imagery here now, but
I
okay.
don't even know how the folding stuff works. I've seen them open where a person
Yeah.
unfolds a phone and there's no crease, there's no nothing. You wouldn't know that it was foldable.
Oh, I think you can. In the ones I've
Yeah,
seen,
yes,
maybe it takes a while to appear, but at least I'm thinking it's there enough that I would be distracted by it. But then you have a notch on most phones, and some people hate that, and I don't even see it. So maybe I'm fold sensitive, and you're not.
but
That's it.
what would be the appeal? Just size? The appeal of this is that it's twice the size, only it fits in your pocket.
Maybe the utility of it being the size you need for right now. Like, I just need to make a phone call. Here it is. But now I need to do some writing. Let's spread it out a bit and have a fold-out keyboard and a pop-up stand and a Coke. All of these things
I guess it
for
makes
it.
sense though that if you could fold it once, you could fold it twice or three times. So it does make sense that you could make an iPad out of
Yeah,
the size of a card.
I wouldn't like to try making that, but yeah, because it's 5 years since Samsung brought out its first foldable, and that was a bit of a disaster. Like, it fell apart. But they've been doing it for 5 years now and getting better, and Apple still hasn't done it. And I think part of it is that they're not sure people are actually that fussed about it. But on the other hand, there's got to be if Apple releases it and it doesn't work, that's end of the world. Apple is doomed. Headlines everywhere. We've been betrayed by Apple. Whereas Microsoft does it and it's a feature, so yeah.
And in the end, it's all just a tool.
Yes. In the end, I mean, this sounds so fatuous, but writing is one word after another, however you do it, wherever you do it. So, yes. God,
Is
that was a depressing thought, wasn't it? One word after another.
You even had a video about an endless number of pencils.
Oh, yes. Goodness, you really have what? Okay. Right.
Just just
There's a pencil
astonishing.
museum,
I
not
had to
not
Google what
very
a
far from me.
pencil was. it's, it's just amazing, but
Wait a
it
minute, have
makes
I?
sense.
Oh, I was going to get my Apple Pencil out. I would never have bought an Apple Pencil. £130 for it, my handwriting, forget it. But I found one in a hotel on holiday, and since then, it's amazing. I've been
Mm.
slashing away, editing